Edmonton Oilers 6, Chicago Blackhawks 5. What a roller coaster of emotions. Welcome to the day after reaction. Myself, Waz, and Coombsy. How are we feeling this morning?
That was a roller coaster ride, like you said. That was a weird game. It felt like coming into it, it's kind of like it was a bit of a mixed bag of what to expect. The Oilers played really well the night before in St. Louis, but you're on the road on the second leg of a back-to-back going up against a bad team. So it's kind of hard to say what exactly you expect, but the Oilers played pretty well. They brought out a lot of energy, but then in the second period, things got really weird. The refs just kind of took over the game completely, and the Oilers got called for 9 penalties in one period. The Blackhawks themselves got called for 5 in the second period, so 14 all told.
Jesus.
That's something you never see. That's like 2 games, maybe 3 games worth of penalties in like this day and age in the NHL in one period. It was kind of like it reminded me of, you remember all the way back in 2005-06, the first season after the lockout, when they wanted to like get offense up and they wanted to get clutching and grabbing down, so everything was just a penalty. It was just like that.
Cam, I was 9 years old.
Well, I mean, you do remember the playoffs that year, right?
Yeah, I just don't know anything about hockey in that area. I'm like, this is fun.
So that's pretty much what it felt like they were going back to. It was just like every time someone looked at anyone or breathed on them or had their stick near them, it was called as a penalty. And it was impossible to get any flow going in this game, largely because of that. It felt like the refs kind of either lost control of the game and wanted to really calm it down, or the ref just had a power trip and that's how they wanted to operate. And I mean, one thing worth bringing up is that Chris Rooney, one of the refs in this game against Chicago, was also one of the refs who was officiating the game against the Anaheim Ducks in the 2017 playoffs with the infamous "what am I going to tell Corey Perry" goal situation. So whenever you can remember a ref's name, it's usually not a good thing.
No, definitely. The officiating was definitely the main headline of that game. Even though Connor McDavid scores a hat trick, Leon Draisaitl scores a winner on his birthday, it was all about the officiating. And you brought up the referee who was in the Anaheim series who caused a dramatic sense. Emily on TikTok, I like this point she brought up. It's a comment on TikTok. She says, listening to 630 Shed, they brought up a good point. They should have the refs come out after a game and talk to the press about the goal and why they called it goal or no goal. Just would be nice to see from the different perspective. Seemed like a good idea. I don't know. I think maybe the refs should have more say with the I mean, they do kind of do that, like they go to center ice and explain no goal, but maybe people just want more of an explanation because sometimes it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, it's not a terrible idea because sometimes you have games like this where the refs become the entire storyline.
Yes.
But then I worry, I mean, as much as we want an answer from the ref, are they really going to give us any information other than that's what we saw and that's what we thought was right? We're calling the rules. And the problem with having them come out and talk after a game is it makes them more of the main character, and you really want to make it about the game. You want to make it about the players. So I understand where that comment is coming from. I understand the logic, but I think giving the refs more of a sense of making them more of a character in the game maybe isn't necessarily the way to go.
Okay, let's get to your 3 takeaways, Cam. What's your first takeaway from the game?
So my first takeaway, of course, was that the reffing was quite bad. But what I will say in praise of the Oilers is that they did a good job of kind of reeling in their emotions after things hit the fan late in the second. You know, Evander Kane had the goal disallowed. It was really weird. They called it a goal on the ice, and then they said the call on the ice is no goal. And then the Oilers challenged it. It was still a no goal. And then Edmonton takes a penalty, and then Evander Kane takes another penalty. And unsportsmanlike from the bench, things were looking pretty bad late in the second. It looked like things easily could have escaped the Oilers there. Things were getting emotional, but credit to them. They calmed down in the third period and recognized, I would imagine during the intermission, okay, the refs are calling everything. Everything's a penalty today. This is like a beer league game. We have to really reel it in. And they did. They only took 1 penalty in the third period where Chicago took 3. The Oilers capitalized, scoring on 2 power plays in the third and wound up winning the game. And that's pretty much what the key was. You can't sit there and get really worked up about the refs. You have to just accept that's what the game is, and that's what they did.
Second takeaway.
My second takeaway is Connor McDavid with a magnificent game. He had a few quiet games before that. And I mean quiet by Connor McDavid standards, where you just expect
this is true, actually.
Yeah, you expect him to score 2, 3, 4, 5 points every single game. Our expectations are obviously out of this world, but it was 3 games. There was the back-to-backs in which he was left off the score sheet, and then he had 1 assist against St. Louis. So it was 1 point in 3 games for McDavid. And he looked a little bit slower on the ice in those games. You kind of worried maybe He was banged up or something because he went hard into the boards when they played the Sabres. He went hard into the boards when they played the Penguins. Is there something to worry about here? But then McDavid came out in this game against Chicago and was absolutely flying. He scored his second hat trick of the season. He has 8 goals in 8 games and leads the NHL. I don't think it's out of the question this year that McDavid wins his first ever Rocket Richard trophy.
And he has the same amount of hat tricks as Austin Matthews has goals right now. 2 hat tricks.
Exactly.
It's incredible.
Austin Matthews is off to a slow start to the season. He was the favorite this year to win the Rocket again, and McDavid's got to capitalize on Matthews' slow start and build himself a big lead so he can win this thing.
And your third takeaway or key?
My third takeaway from this game is that, and this is looking ahead to their next game against Calgary. They play the Flames on Saturday night, Hockey Night in Canada game. It's their second meeting against the Flames. They're only playing the Flames 3 times this year. So if Calgary wins this game, then they've already won the season series, which would be unfortunate. So I think the Oilers should go back to Stuart Skinner in this game against Calgary. I don't think Jack Campbell was bad per se, and he's had some excellent games since his slow start to the season. But Stuart Skinner right now is your hottest goalie. He was magnificent against the Blues in that win earlier this week. He was also really good in relief against the Flames. And I think that the Campbell-Skinner tandem isn't necessarily starter backup this year. I think it's more 1A, 1B. You got to ride the hot hand, and the hot hand right now is Skinner. So he has to play against the Flames.
Plus, I mean, the Flames came out with Dan Vladar against us, and that did pretty well for them. I mean, we know the history of Jacob Markstrom, so that'll be interesting to see as well tomorrow. Will it be the backups going against each other? Because that's very rare to see, I find.
That's what I'm thinking. I mean, the Flames, like you said, they weren't afraid to sit Markstrom against the Oilers. Markstrom had a hard time against Edmonton in the playoffs last year, and maybe it was in his head. So Daryl Sutter made the gutsy decision in his second game of the year to start Dan Vladar. So, I mean, I don't see any reason why the Oilers can be worried to put their $5 million goalie on the bench and start Skinner, because he's been the hotter goalie recently.
Well, thank you, Kumzi, for that. Fantastic. Thank you for joining us for the day after reaction. Don't forget to head to OilersNation.com for more in-depth analysis and great articles from Cam right here. Yeah. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. We'll see you after the BOA.